Let's do some snap judgments, Matty, from round 12. Snap Fitness has you covered. Go to your local Snap Fitness to find out more at snapfitness.com.au. So Panthers defeat the Broncos 15 points to 4. This is the testing time, isn't it, for the Brisbane Broncos? Yeah. This is the period that you want to see what the Broncos have got to deliver.
Yes, and I did like what Kevy Walters said after the game. Because there was a fair bit to like about the Broncos' performance, right? Without their most important player, Adam Reynolds, and Penrith are in red-hot form, and I thought the Broncos stood up really well. There was a try or two disallowed either way. Score could have been very, very different. But Kevy Walters said, where Penrith are at, right, in really this sort of high-end football and in really important matches, he said they've been there for about 3 or 4 seasons. He said, we've just come into this sphere. And that's what separated them the other night. But the longer the Broncos stay there, the better they'll get. I like what they're doing.
Dragons, 24-22 over the Roosters. It just shows, doesn't it? Winning takes away all the question marks. Winning takes away all the drama. They're not going to forget the fact that Anthony Griffin was there for so long, and obviously so many are so close to them. But this is Ryan Carr. And the big statement about that, and I saw this when it happened, was when he stood up in the coach's box and he whacked on the glass and he said, straight up, F off. And that's out loud to everyone, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. From the opening whistle, Matty, they just looked different, the Dragons. The players just, the way they moved, there was just more intent in everything they did. And meanwhile, the Roosters got left at the barriers again. Look, we said about confidence before, right? When you're low on confidence, right, you basically, this is my mindset we used to have, is that when you lost a few in a row and things are a little tough, mate, your mentality is, right, we're going to win this game 2-0. That's what we're going to do. We're going to win it 2-0. We're just going to pour energy into our defence because, if you're low in confidence, it doesn't so much come out in your defence, it comes out with the football. Now, the Roosters, what they're trying to do, they're trying to football their way into form. Right, and they're tying themselves in knots. I'm having a look at some of their attacking shapes. They're high-risk shapes. They're passing in the defence line. They're coming up with errors. They'd be far better to change their mentality. We're going to win this week. We're going to win 2-0 if we have to. We're just going to major on defence. We're going to play very simple, and that's where they need to go with their football.
If I could give you 10 minutes with Victor Radley right now. I mean, again, it was the brain explosion. Call it what you will. There's discussion around whether it was a headbutt or not. In the modern day, it doesn't matter because you just can't do that. But what would your discussion be with Victor Radley, where he's at the moment and where the team's at the moment?
My discussion with Victor, I'd go to Victor and say, mate, you've got to stop listening to the outside noise and trying to be what they think you are, if that makes sense. So everyone talks about Victor and Victor. Mate, Victor's a loose cannon and that's what makes him, and Victor does this and he pushes, he's got the toes up on the edge all the time. I'd say, Victor, don't listen to that crap, righto? You get back to being what you are, and that is, yes, a tough footballer, but you're skillful and you're a smart footballer. Let's get back to that. Let's stop being what people are telling you or they want you to be.
The injury concerns mount up as well. The Cheese is out for a while with a thumb injury, so they're just copping it left, right and centre. The Roosters, the Rabbitohs go down to the Eels, 36 points to 16 at Allianz Stadium on Friday night. Parramatta just flexed their muscle in this one.
Yeah, this is what Parramatta do, Matty. Out of the blue, that they just put in a performance like this with that high intensity, high energy. They look great. What I really liked about Moses and Dylan Brown was that there wasn't a lot of what I call set-up football. Have a bit of a shot, reset the middle. Have another shot, reset the middle. When the kettle was boiling and opportunities, they just kept playing football. The way they run, the way they run. They were calling attacking shapes and letting all that be a diversion and just challenging guys one-on-one. And it's the way the forwards should play every single week at Parramatta. Don't worry too much about clever passing. Leave that to the playmakers. Just hit the line as hard as you can, and if we produce offloads, we'll play off that.
Snap judgment on the Sharks defeating the Knights 26-6.
Yeah, the Sharks, it was a really strong disciplined, Sharks-like performance, because they haven't been like the Sharks this year. They've been, even in the Manly game, they started a mere miles an hour and they just couldn't break away. They couldn't take the next level. But that was a strong performance against the Knights.
66-18, the score out there at Leichhardt Oval. Just one of those days where everything goes right on one side and everything goes wrong on the other. Well done to the West Tigers. I like seeing these kind of performances, and I love seeing them at home. I mean, you know, it is part of the drama where teams and players and all that stuff are going to get dragged through the mire. But the flip side of this, the great side of this in sport and rugby league that we love so much, is these kind of outcomes for all concerned. Coaching staff, players, families, fans, the lot. I mean, the list goes on. What's it like when you're in, I'm sure you've been in both sides, right? What's it like when you're in a team that is on the tear in 80 minutes and that you just cannot stop scoring points? Yeah. And what's it like being on the other side when you cannot stop the points getting scored against you?
Oh, the latter is awful. The latter, you're on a slippery slide and you just can't stop the momentum. It's so bizarre. And we played a semi-final against the Roosters. We're leading 16-0 or 16-2 at half time, and we're walking up the chase. And honestly, in my mind, I've got a good, feel like I've got a good instinct for this. I think we're going to win by 40. Everything was our way. Anyway, we're coming out after half time, and just one or two little errors, but then everything just collapsed. And I think it was 12 minutes after half time, we're behind. And suddenly Joey starts throwing intercepts and all that sort of stuff. On the other side, well, it's just great fun. You just, no matter where you're receiving the ball on the football field, you just march it up, and you almost, you're going to score. I tell you what, everyone's supporting. Everyone can smell blood in the water and think they can get a try. We played the Warriors once. This is sort of, my absurd sense of humour. I found it quite funny. We played the Warriors in '95, right, first time, and they were going good. And we played them at Newcastle, and we were tossing the ball around. Anyway, I think we were leading something like 8-4 at half time. But then the second half, we just got on a roll and ended up blowing it out. It ended up about 46-8, something like that. Anyway, after the game, the Warriors, the Warriors coaching staff complained. They said, it just shows you, what's the matter with the game is the fact that we never had the ball in the second half, and we just found ourselves kicking off all the time. And they were complaining, and I said, yeah, but that's what happens when you don't tackle, right? We score. You kick off. We score. You kick off. Complaining, we didn't have an equal share of possessions. Yes, because you weren't tackling. That was the problem.
Yeah, your mind works in mysterious ways, doesn't it? As the old, great, late now, unfortunately, Uncle Doug Mulray used to say, the clock on the clubhouse wall. Well, that clock, it just, when you're leading and you speak to people who've been in this position, when you're absolutely smashing teams, the clock is going way too fast. And when you're getting absolutely pumped, the clock is going way too slow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. They're so contrasting. That second one, though, I just got goosebumps thinking about that night against the Roosters. It was just so bad. Awful.
The Storm beat the Dolphins 24 points to 16. The Bulldogs yesterday had a 2-point win over the Titans, and the Seagulls came home strong, 42 points to 14 against the Raiders.